In the autumn of 1731, the Reverend Ebenezer Erskine from Berwickshire moved to Stirling from Portmoak in Kinrossshire. Having graduated from the University of Edinburgh, he was first appointed minister at Dysart in Fife, then Portmoak, where he preached from 1703. On his arrival in Stirling, it was said he was met at Stirling Bridge by the local elders and welcomed to his new kirk with much enthusiasm. He was already popular, and his popularity grew as he settled in the town. 2 years later, he became founder of the Cessation Church, dissenters of the established church, in the Old Town in December 1733. He lived in the manse with his second wife Mary, the daughter of James Webster, a minister in Edinburgh, whom he'd married in January 1724. Following a long illness, Mrs. Erskine died and was duly placed in a coffin ready for her burial. According to legend, the sexton knew the body would be handsomely paid for should he be able to sell it to medical students. The day after her funeral, he disinterred her. As he was preparing to carry off her remains, he noticed Mary had been buried with her wedding ring still on her finger. It hadn't been removed due to swelling following her death. He pulled at the ring, but it wouldn't budge, so he tried to amputate the finger with his pocket knife. As he began cutting, blood began to pour from the wound. Astonished, and realising the corpse was in fact a living being, he scrambled out of the grave as quickly as he could and made good his escape. Meanwhile, Mrs. Erskine, dressed in her burial garments, realised she was in a grave. She clambered out of the coffin, up the side of the hole, and made her way to the manse. By now, her shroud was filthy, and had anyone seen her, they no doubt would have had quite a shock. The minister, meanwhile, was observing family worship when he heard a knock at his front door, which he recognised to be that of his deceased wife's, but that was impossible. He sent a servant to open it. When she saw who was standing there, she fainted, believing it to be the ghost of the minister's wife. Erskine was obviously shocked to see her, but delighted that she was alive and well. In fact, she lived many years after this, dying on 15th March 1751. However, it seems Mrs. Erskine wasn't the only one in the family to rise from the dead. Ebenezer's mother appears to have had something similar happen to her, and the story is well known in Dunfermline. She'd been born on Orkney and was the second wife of Henry Erskine, a minister like his sons who'd followed in their father's footsteps. Henry had died at Churnside in Berwickshire in August 1696, and Margaret moved in with Ebenezer and his wife at the manse at Portmoak, but not before the curious incident. She apparently died while at Churnside, shortly after she and Henry had been married in 1674. She was placed in her coffin, then taken for burial at the local graveyard. Later that night, the sexton, knowing she was being buried with a beautiful 5-cluster diamond ring, which was worth a fair bit of money, decided to dig and liberate the ring. He opened the grave, which he'd not covered properly, for he knew he was going to uncover it, and opened the lid of the coffin. He tried to pull the ring from her finger, but it wouldn't budge. He pulled out his knife and prepared to cut off her finger. As the knife cut into the skin, Margaret began to stir and let out an almighty scream due to the pain. The horrified sexton clambered quickly out of the burial site and ran. Margaret soon got herself out of the coffin and clambered up the side of the hole. She made her way home, shocking her husband, who'd believed she was dead. In fact, she'd just been unconscious. She went on to have 5 children, among these Ebenezer and his noted brother, Ralph, who became minister in Dunfermline. In the end, Margaret Halcrow died at Portmoak on 11th January 1725, aged 78. She was buried next to Alison Turpey, Ebenezer's first wife, who died in August 1720, aged 39, in the old churchyard, known as Portmoak Chapel, at Scotland Well. 4 of the 10 children from this marriage are also buried there. They are Henry, Alexander, Ralph and Isabel. As for Margaret's ring, it is believed to have been passed down from eldest daughter to eldest daughter and is still in existence today. Both these versions are very similar, so it's possible that over time they have become intertwined, leading to Stirling having its own version of the same story as Dunfermline, or vice versa. It's also worth noting that there is no written record of either of these events, except in Victorian history books. There is also some speculation that it was Henry Erskine's first wife that this happened to, and not Margaret Halcrow. So whether either, both, or any are true is purely speculative, but as the saying goes, there is an element of truth in every legend. What is known for sure is that some sextons did indeed rob the newly buried dead if they knew the body had been buried with an item of value. As for Ebenezer Erskine, he died in June 1754, aged 73. They all appear to be resting in peace. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.